Okay, before we begin the video, I want to make a very brief warning. I know this video says that at the time it's uploaded, it's the 24th of November. I know it's not. I intended it to be uploaded on that day, but unfortunately my internet had been cut off until that very day, so I haven't had the time to get everything ready. So please apologize for my video being very late, but I didn't want to re-record it because I thought the tone would be inconsistent with the rest of the clips in this video. Well, with that out of the way, enjoy the countdown, my friends, and have a good day. Hello there YouTube, this is Father Dugan 9000 and welcome to a super special video. At the time of this video being uploaded, it is the 24th of November 2012. What does that mean? Simple. It's the 20th anniversary of one of the most beloved Sonic games in the franchise, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, but more importantly, the 20th anniversary of my personal favorite Sonic character, Miles Tails Prower. Now when it comes to criticism of the franchise's huge cast of characters, Tails seems to avoid most of it. Why? Well, I think it's because, for one thing, he didn't stay a one-note character during his stay in the series. Originally a tag-along fanboy, Tails eventually found his own way of saving the day in ways besides acting like Sonic, such as building all sorts of awesome inventions to help the Blue Blur and fight whatever evils threaten Mobius. There's also the fact that he's the kind of guy who tries to do his best no matter what the circumstances are, probably like a lot of Sonic fans in a way. To this very day, Tails is one of the most consistently popular characters in the franchise, and to honor his 20th birthday, I'm making a countdown about his 10 greatest moments. In my opinion anyways. Not just in the games, but other parts of the franchises like TV shows and movies. Not the comics though, I've barely read either one, so I'm not going to talk about them. Now this is mostly going to be joke-free and me simply rambling about my favorite Tails moments. Also, there shall be spoilers in several entries, so tread very carefully, alright? Now that we have that out of the way, let's begin my top 10 favorite Tails moments. The Sonic the Hedgehog movie / OVA, despite its incredibly awful tagline and silly dialogue, is considered by most of the Sonic fanbase to be a pretty faithful video game movie and a good movie on its own. Although the incredibly narmy English dub by ADV Films tried very hard to make things pretty annoying where everyone sounded very weird.
You might know everything I'm going to do, but that's not going to help you since I know everything you're going to do. Strange, isn't it?
The special mention here has to go to Tails, whose voice actress makes him sound like he's had a cold for 2 weeks straight.
Here, Sonic! It's okay if you don't swim! You should give it a... Sonic! Help me! Wake up, Sonic! Come on! Help!
But even so, I still feel that he was pretty awesome in this movie. Firstly, the way he tries to mimic Sonic's movements at certain points in the movie is utterly adorable. Secondly, he actually does contribute something to the plot unlike other parts of the franchise. And most infamously, he's the only male Sonic character in official material to actually grope a woman's breasts, albeit accidentally. And considering that this is the franchise that gave us Rouge the Bat, one of the biggest sex symbols of the furry fandom, that's kind of surprising.
Tails, get off!
I'm so sorry!
I never thought you'd stoop that low.
Still, for all the crap that some circles give this movie, you have to admit the people who did make this actually tried to make Tails useful, unlike in certain areas in the franchise, and in my opinion did rather well at that. Although they really should have given the English voice just a smidge more thought. Actually, scratch that, not a smidge, a ton of more thought.
Sonic! Help me! Wake up, Sonic! Come on! Help! Sonic! Help me! Wake up, Sonic!
Shut up, Tails!
While the universe at large has forgotten about this, Back in the 90s, the Sonic franchise was so popular that basically any character involved in it got a game of his own, and Tails was just lucky enough to get 2 games, Tails Sky Patrol and Tails Adventure. Both games were 2 very different gameplay takes on Tails' solo adventures. Sky Patrol was essentially a bullet hell-based game where you had to survive tons of crap being thrown at you, and Adventure was a slow-paced Metroidvania-style platformer. Both games sounded really good, except they only turned out to be decent at best. Not to mention that they came out for the infamous Sega Game Gear only, so they didn't sell all that well, and due to its infamous difficulty, Sky Patrol didn't come out of Japan for years until the Sonic Gems collection in 2005. So this particular moment goes to Tails Adventure. Not for the quality, mind you, but for what Tails did. In the Japanese version of the game, Tails Adventure takes place sometime before Tails met up with Sonic, and is about how he saved the world from the dastardly efforts of the Battle Cuckoo Army, an army of anthropomorphic birds and mecha. What's impressive here is that even before he met his idol, Tails could still hold his ground against one of the largest armies on Mobius with only just a few inventions. He couldn't do any kind of spinning attack, he was still inexperienced with flying, and didn't use any personal attacks, but he still managed to defeat the Battle Cuckoo Army all by himself just by throwing bombs at them. That's damn impressive. Hey, come on. The guy just walks everywhere. He doesn't even run. That, my friends, takes balls. Okay, sorry about that, but just let me be honest here for a minute. I really don't care for Sonic SatAM, at least in terms of its quality. I mean, do I respect the history behind it and its incredibly low following? Hell yeah, but on its own, the show was just nowhere near as good as people have said about it, at least in my opinion. I'll go more in depth on it another time, but for now, let me just say that one of my larger criticisms of the show was that the majority of the Freedom Fighters didn't get much time in the spotlight overall, and Tails was the worst case in this. Yes, I know that the writers had plans for him in the cancelled 3rd season, but that didn't happen, so it doesn't count. For the most part, Tails did nothing for the vast majority of the show. All he did was either stay in bed, get captured, or be Sonic's cheering squad. He did nothing, except for one episode, Rude Henge. Okay, this is mostly at number 8 because it's the only time in the show where Tails actually did something to contribute to the plot, but even so, Tails actually does have a few awesome moments in this episode. First of all, this was actually the first time where Tails, again, contributed something to the mission he was on instead of being, well, the boring load. Also, we really got to see how clever the big guy was since he was able to shut down a massive factory by himself, saved Sonic from a group of swamp bots, and even came up with the final plan at the end of the episode. While Tails didn't do anything for the most part in this show, the series of crowning moments of awesome made up for a lot of that. Although, I'm still really trying to figure out why that hot tub scene with him and Sonic at the start of the episode was even there.
Fan service adds to our development as characters.
Oh, of course! And to think that I completely forgot about this moment until the very last minute. Okay, while I don't enjoy Sonic CD as much as a large majority of the Sonic fanbase does, I will admit that the 2011 port of the game is frigging brilliant, giving players the definitive version of the game with not just all the bugs and graphical errors fixed, but even adding all sorts of extras like new graphical filters, the option to play alongside either the American or Japanese soundtracks, and even being able to use the Sonic 2 version of the Super Spin Dash instead of the boring CD one. But probably the best of all has to be the option to play as Tails for the first time. Tails never appeared in the original version of the game, and was never brought up by anyone in any forum thinking, hey, why don't we put Tails in Sonic CD? I mean, there aren't even any fan-made hacks that put Tails in Sonic CD along the lines of Fly with Tails in Sonic 1, or Sonic & Knuckles Chaotix, which is kind of strange considering that most Sonic characters usually get poured into hacks somehow. But while developing the remake, someone at Blit thought, hey, why not put Tails in? It shouldn't be too hard to do and it could be a hell of a lot of fun. And thus Tails was coded into the 2011 version of Sonic CD. That is probably one of the most awesome additions to a re-release I have ever seen. Okay, let's talk about why this is so flipping awesome. Firstly, Sonic CD is more of an exploration-based game instead of a linear platformer like the rest of the Mega Drive Sonics, and Tails' flight-based abilities complement this perfectly. You can get to certain areas a lot easier than Sonic can, making reaching the robot generators and Metal Sonic holograms much more plausible, as well as making certain platforming sections far less annoying. Secondly, their sprites borrow from several sources to ensure that Tails gets equal treatment alongside Sonic, such as the special stage sprites, swimming sprites, and even one or two from Sonic Crackers. Yes, that's right, they use Tails sprites from that prototype of Knuckles Chaotix that's been floating around the internet for years at this stage, which is pretty damn neat, at least for those that are interested in Sonic prototypes like me. Then there's the fact that Tails is just there because he feels like being there. There's no story or cutscene of any sort explaining as to why he's there. He's just there because he's so damn awesome that he decides to replace Sonic in one of the most beloved Sonic games in history. And that, my friends, is really flipping awesome. Sonic Generations, one of the greatest anniversary celebrations in gaming, or definitely better than Mario's lazy one anyway. When the game was announced with the brief return of classic Sonic, the fandom rejoiced in delight that the good old Potbelly Wonder would come back for one last run. And then people started thinking about which other classic versions of characters could show up as well. Well, who better than the only character introduced from the classic days that people not only tolerated, but actually liked, and thus classic Tails returned. Okay, where do I start with this little guy? First of all, and this is probably the most obvious one, he is freaking adorable! His character design is exactly like his original cute Japanese design, but with the powers of current-gen consoles is now really cute. What makes it better is the English version of the character, since his voice actress Kate Higgins gives him this little lisp, and it's the cutest freaking thing in the world.
It sounds like the same thing that kidnapped your friends. I mean our friends. You know what I mean.
Secondly, he and his modern counterpart actually get quite a few references throughout the game, and once again, they actually contribute something to the plot instead of being there for no real reason. But best of all is the Chemical Plant Challenge, where you actually get to fly around Chemical Plant as Tails in a console game for the first time in years. Okay, technically you're just flying around while the actual running and jumping is left to classic Sonic, but in any case, it's still a joy to see Tails get the spotlight again. And who knows? Maybe we'll get a new Tails game, eh, Sega? Well, a man can dream at least. A man can dream.